Didn't the other kids tell you not to come here? Go back before it's too late!
At the heart of horror, there has always been more than spooks and scares.
Sometimes, it's not what you see, but what you hear.
Welcome to Sound Scary.
Each week, we talk to the artists, the musicians, the fans, the people who haunt the shadowy corners of your mind.
Join us as we delve into the deepest,
Darkest.
and most unforgettable earscapes.
Welcome
To Sound Scary.
In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born, all the shock and the horror was there. Or the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago.
I am here live at Dark Delicacies with the lovely and talented Helene Udi. My Bloody Valentine is one of my favorite films. I watch it every year. You're talking about this movie that you made, what, 1981?
That's what they say.
And it's still, people talk about, people loved it, people came to meet you guys. How does that feel to you now as an adult kind of looking back at your career?
I'm really grateful. Because when we made the movie, we were just a bunch of actors starting off in a very young business in Canada, just feeling great that we had an opportunity to do some fun work, and we just really enjoyed each other on the movie. And so it's really nice that it meant something years and years later, because who knows about these things, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
And kind of piggybacking off of his question, was there a moment that you knew that this film had become a cult classic?
I really think it was the internet. That's when it became apparent. Before that, not really. I mean, I would get requests for autograph, but not that often. It was really the internet that sort of connected everybody and made it possible for us to see it, that it was a thing. Yeah.
And what was the strangest thing you've been asked to sign? Because horror fans, we can be a little odd.
My feet. A picture of my feet. Oh. Yeah.
Yikes.
I didn't do it just because, that's very odd.
Yeah, that's a little much.
Well, I guess I won't ask my next question. No, just kidding. I would never ask that. That is weird. I know you kind of you've been in the genre world. How do you feel about, the genre has changed so much.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's more inclusive now in a way. We're seeing a lot more of everything, whether it's elevated horror, whether it's slashers.
Right.
Are you still a genre fan, or is that something that you kind of turned away from?
I'm actually more a genre fan now than I was, and I think My Bloody Valentine was a movie to me. It wasn't necessarily a horror movie. For me, it was. I didn't know that there were sort of categories, because I was young. I was 17 at the time, so I didn't understand it as a genre. I just understood it as a story. And then when I sort of understood horror movies were a thing, I wasn't a fan of horror movies, just on principle, because I don't like death and gore and meanness. So, and then I went through enough trauma that I started liking horror movies, and now I'm a horror movie fan. Now I'm horror movies, ghost stories, sci-fi. I love all that stuff. Fantasy, that's my thing now. Yeah, I'd rather watch one of those than watch anything else.
Well, we love having you.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk more about your death scene in the movie, because it is one of the most iconic kills in this classic film.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular memories about filming that sequence?
Well, here comes Robbie.
Here comes
He's
Robbie.
just gonna go.
Hey, come on in, man.
Please join our interview.
We're filming right now.
We're Ryan and Jimmy from Sound Scary. It's a horror movie talk show.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Hey, pleasure to meet you. Thanks for joining us. Your timing is perfect. We're actually talking about her death scene and
Right.
memories about filming that sequence. So if you'd both like to kind of elaborate on
Well,
that.
I remember blushing when Robbie asked me if you. What was the line, Robbie?
Oh, we're smooching. We're making out like teenagers, and I think I make a move to cop a feel, and she goes, you know what we need?
Yes, that's right.
And I go, yeah, I got one right here, and I pull out a condom.
Yep.
And she goes, no, silly, more beer.
And I
that's
remember
where I
being
make my
mortified,
exit.
actually, in that, like that was not really acting.
So that was just off the cuff?
No, it was
Was it
written,
in- was
but
it
it
in the
just was
script?
very awkward.
I think it was in the script. But the thing
but George also had a way of just like coming up with zinger lines, and that might have been one of the zinger lines on the set. We'll have to see.
The thing that I take most pride in is that we were actually one of the first horror films to ever promote safe sex.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, when you look at it like that.
Yeah.
Hats
We
off.
did that. You and
We
me,
did
girl.
that. And then I died.
Yeah, you got, see, that's a problem. Oh, spoiler alert. For the crazy people who haven't seen one of the best horror movies ever made, I want to talk about your wardrobe because, man, you rocked that vest.
Leather vest.
Wow, you looked freaking awesome. But do you guys look back at the fashions and stuff and go, yeah, I did that.
We were kids. I mean, honestly, I was 20. You were 17.
Right.
We were just so thrilled to be in a movie, and the most amazing thing about I never really thought about what I was wearing,
He dyed his hair red.
but I did dye my hair red.
Oh.
And that was a request. I made that
And
request.
I think I would still wear the jeans I was wearing, pretty much. I mean, I would still wear the clothes I was wearing back then. It's cool again.
There's one scene right after the shower scene the first shower scene where we're going, when John says it's going to be a hot night on Saturday night or whatever he says when they're in the shower, and then we are all running out into the parking lot and we all jump in our cars and we go to the party. I remember that very vividly because the 2 days before, I wasn't on set. They were shooting something else. So I was in my room, my motel room, and I had a Swiss Army knife and I was whittling a piece of wood. And I sliced my thumb.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a gusher. I sliced it right here. And I had to go to the hospital and they had to stitch up my thumb.
Oh my god.
And George was like, "Oh geez, how are we gonna hide this?"
Yeah.
You know? So the very next time I was on set, which was 2 days later, I was stitched up and I was bandaged, and George says, "Take that, we're putting our shoes on and we're running out to get in the cars." And he said, "Just make sure that your jacket or your whatever it is hanging over your thumb so that the camera can't see that you cut yourself." Yeah, I'll never forget that because I felt so terrible, but it was just I was just like whittling. And I looked up, maybe it was a hockey game, and I went, "Whoosh," and I
Oh, I can just.
and George, I remember George kind of going, "Oh God, how are we gonna write this into the script?" So no, we're not gonna write it into the script. Hang a coat over it or something.
That's hilarious.
Coming kind of back to your death sequence,
Yeah.
I had heard that there was an extended cut of that scene that didn't make it to theaters because it was a little much. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. Yeah, absolutely.
What can you tell us about what we weren't able to see in the film?
Well, I don't know if I've ever seen that scene, but I hear.
We're gonna see it next week.
Right. The blood was. You could see the blood coming out of my mouth, gushing out of my mouth, and
Yeah.
I think that you can't see it in this version of it. What
Yeah,
else was
they had
cut
to
out of that scene? They
tame
just
it.
had to. Yeah, they had to tame it quite a bit. So yeah, it's a lot gorier.
Gotcha, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
And you said you'll see it next week. What?
Yeah, well, there's a My Bloody Valentine screening in Toronto that they're doing for on Valentine's Day, and most of the cast are Toronto based. So they're doing a
Q&A.
autograph
Yeah.
session before and after, and a big Q&A with all of the cast and the directors and the producers will be there. I know. Bob Presner will be there.
Yeah.
And I think maybe John Dunning or Andre Link.
No, John Dunning is dead.
Oh, John's dead.
Yeah, his son though.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
We've lost a few cast members, and one thing that
And
they're doing that's
producers.
really sweet, Tom Kovac came up with the idea to have blown up posters of the cast members that have passed away since we made the movie, and they're going to put them up behind us to incorporate them into the Q&A.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that they're paying tribute.
Yeah.
That's very, very nice.
We're all close.
We were all close, and the cool thing is that we're still best of friends.
Yeah.
Like most of us are still very close.
All of us are really.
Yeah.
Those of us that are left. Oh, there's a couple of-
Neil is sort of drifted away.
But
with
we love
his-
Neil.
Oh
Drifted
yeah,
away,
we just
but
never see him.
We never see him. And
Yeah.
Cynthia, we never see.
Cynthia, we never see.
Never see.
And you can kind of tell that in the film, because the scenes where you're all hanging out, you can kind of feel that there's a vibe there that isn't just actors coming together for a scene. So it's good to hear that that is true.
That's a tribute to George's casting ability.
Yeah, I think so.
He
He just cast good people.
Yeah, he wanted his cast to be friends.
Oh.
You know, and out of their friendships would come better performances.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
it proved to be true because 42 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
You know, at a book and a game board signing.
Yeah.
Who knew? You
But
know?
we stay in touch otherwise, so that's great. Even though
We talk a lot together.
Yeah.
Wow. At least once or twice. At least twice a month. Sometimes once a week, because we're checking in on some of our other friends in the cast that maybe have had some ups and downs, and you know. So, yeah, we've stayed pretty tight. I've stayed at her house.
Wow.
She stayed at my house.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of amazing because you hear all these stories about, they make this movie. There's always people getting pissed at each other. There's, and they're like, once the movie's done, screw that, never want to see these people again. But yeah,
There was a lack of, we were shooting in Canada first of all, so there was a Canadian thing going on there. Like, we didn't think of ourselves as anything other than actors lucky to get a job. I mean, we had
And we were
humility.
kids.
There was humility, yeah, but there's
We
a
didn't
lot
have
of bratty.
careers to go to.
There's a lot of bratty.
We were just starting our
We were
careers.
just starting our careers.
Yeah.
But hopefully none of us got bratty anyway. We were just not bratty people. Yeah. But
It was truly one of the greatest experiences in my professional life, and it was only my second one, and it was great. I mean, I've had
and
many.
none of us were famous. Like there was nobody
No.
that was more than. We were all on the same. Well, there was what's his name? The chief, the town chief.
Don Franks.
Don Franks
Yeah, he
was
was a bit of a
very
Canadian
well known.
celebrity.
Yeah.
But he had never played a white guy. He always played an Indian.
Yeah.
There's a very funny story. He always was cast. Well, he is. He was.
He wasn't Indian at all, but he was married to an Indian, and he was brought into the tribe, like whatever. They brought him.
And he had really long hair.
Yeah.
And he had to put it up, and then he wore a
wig.
wig.
And
yeah, it was.
It was pretty okay though.
Yeah,
I think
it was good.
Yeah.
It was one of the great experiences. And of course,
Yeah.
we got to go to Nova Scotia and stay in a hotel and,
Yeah, beautiful
get
old
picked up
hotel.
and driven to the set.
Yes,
and it was like
like
all this kind of
stars.
stuff was like all so new to us. There was a
buzz. We
Yeah.
were buzzing.
And even on our days off, we'd hang out together.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Oh yeah.
I remember that one day there was you, me, Carl, and Cynthia. We went playing in some park somewhere, and I have some pictures of me pretending that I was bending a parking meter because it was already bent, and I was like, we were playing up. So I have lots of
Yeah.
photographs of that, of the
Yeah.
off the set stuff.
I always say like I didn't go to college, so that was my college. That was my college month.
way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, that's like it seems like such a special thing, and here we like I was telling her earlier, we're still talking about this film. People love
The
it.
fact that we were on location helped as well because nobody went home.
Right.
We would
Right.
go. That really helped us stay bonded because there was nobody to have dinner with. So just naturally, we're happy that
We'd just
everybody
hang out with
gathered.
each other.
Yeah.
And
Not so much with the
all of
crew,
us except
really.
for you were of legal age to drink beer.
But I drank it anyway.
But she drank it
And I wasn't a big. It's not true though. I wasn't a big drinker at the time, so yeah. I probably
I remember
put my little pinky in and went.
Moosehead beer, Keith's beer, Old Scotia beer. Those are like the East Coast. The East Coast.
Canadian, no?
East Coast, West Coast, Central Canada. There are different beers. I mean, there's Molson is everywhere, and Labatt's is everywhere. But then you have sort of like the provincial beers that don't distribute outside of their own province, I guess. I don't know. But
So Robbie was beer tasting. He was doing due diligence on the beer.
Which one was the best?
I was actually partial to Old Scotia and Moosehead. But Moosehead in Canada tastes different than, the imported stuff. Like they do import Canadian beer. It's not as alcoholic. There's like a lower percentage of alcohol for some reason.
That's odd. Is Canadian beer more alcoholic than American beer by standard?
By standard, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Wait, what was your favorite beer? Since you're underage.
Yeah. No, beer was not my thing.
Oh.
But no, I wasn't a big drinker for a long time. I drink more now than I did when I was a kid. So yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, but my acid, that was my thing.
Oh, there you go. Now we're talking. Well,
Plot twist. Okay.
oh my
Give me the
God.
drugs. To hell with a beer. That makes you fat, you know?
Yeah.
She's lying.
This took a turn. I guess lastly, I have read a ton of trivia about this film, and there are some things that I was hoping maybe you could confirm if this is true or if this is an internet rumor.
Sure.
First of all, is it true that this film was actually shot in genuine coal mines?
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, it was shot in the. It was shot. The Princess.
So tall.
The Princess Mine was actually an actual coal mine that was no longer being used to farm coal. But they got permission to use the mine, the location of the mine, and there were days where we went, 1,500 feet down and a mile out underneath the ocean to find that. Oh yeah.
And there's this story
there
too,
was some
that it was a
scary
real
stuff.
mine, and that they were so excited that we were there that they cleaned the mine up.
Oh yeah.
They cleaned it up so that it looked really
Well,
pretty.
it became a bit of a museum. It was a museum piece too, I think, that people, visitors could like go into the mine.
But George said they cleaned it up, and they had to go dirty
They had to
it again.
dirty it up again.
Yeah, they had to dirty it again.
That must have been a bummer.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of stuff. Like, there's that story that the coal miners, they go down with a canary, right? Because the canary will die
coal
from the
mine.
methane
Canary in the
gas
adult coal mine.
before
A human
will smell it.
Yeah.
So if the canary dies, get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
That was the whole principle of the canaries. It was kind of cool.
Did you have a canary on set?
I don't remember if they did or not.
I never went down in the mine.
You never went at all?
I'm the only actor performer that never character.
Oh yeah, you never
that
went
never
down.
went down to the mine.
You didn't get a chance to go, well, I want to
Jim-
at least go check it out.
Jim
No,
didn't-
because
Jim
it was
didn't
kind
either.
of dangerous, and they didn't want too many people.
Jim
going.
didn't go down either
He
because
didn't
he wasn't.
either.
I don't think he was a miner.
Okay, yeah. I regret that terribly. I mean, I
It
kind
was
of
cool.
remember
It was
some part
pretty,
of it, but I didn't
It was
go into
scary cool.
Yeah.
And I think that, and there were like that scene that I remember. I'll never forget the scene where they're climbing the ladder and the water's dripping down, and that's when Alf's character,
Yeah.
who's beheaded, he gets hung, and his head is ripped off of his body.
Oh.
And Sarah and TJ and Alf. Yeah, well, Alf is going up, and that was pretty scary. I was down there. I wasn't in those scenes, but they were shooting whatever mine scenes they were shooting. They tried to sort of get the mine. In film you shoot
Out of
according to
order.
location,
Yeah.
not because it's too much money to go to the mine, then spend 2 days over there, and then go back to the mine.
Yeah.
Sort of like you shoot according to location as opposed to story sequence. But
Did Carl probably didn't go in the mine. Oh,
No.
Carl did go in the mine because he was a miner.
Yes.
We're talking about I don't know their names in the
Murat
story.
never went in the mine.
Oh, he didn't?
No, the featured miners were Keith Knight,
Right.
Alf,
Right.
TJ,
Yep.
Tom Kovacs, myself, and Neil Affleck.
Okay.
We were the 6 sort of minors.
Didn't Tom do the folk? Didn't Tom do the folk tune in the last tune in the movie? What, didn't he write it, or he
The
he
Ballad
sang
of
it?
Harry Warden?
Yeah, I thought Tom.
Did he write it?
I thought he wrote it and sang it.
I don't know.
We're gonna have to look into that.
Yeah.
I'll put a little
I know,
line under
I
it
know.
and the interview. Like, yes, he
I'm
did.
pretty sure it's
We'll find
true.
out and get back to you.
Okay.
And lastly, is it true that the cast did not know who the killer was during production?
That is
Yes,
true.
we were
did
all
not
given
know.
the entire script except for the last 10 pages.
It could have been me, but no, it couldn't have been because I
No,
didn't know I
couldn't have
died.
Yeah.
Did you find out in theaters or?
I
Ghost.
do remember that I was specifically directed to hold Helene up like this when I kiss her
Right.
at the party, because that was sort of
The premonition.
subliminal foreshadowing of how she actually gets killed,
Right.
and it also suggests that maybe John is the killer. You know, there are lots of little things like
Thoughts.
that.
If you watch the movie, you see more and more.
Yeah.
So here we are with the man of the hour, Anthony Masi, he's literally made, I think, one of the coolest things to buy, possibly for any fan, the My Bloody Valentine game. How did you come up with the idea, let's put this on a board game?
Well, it all started with Silent Night, Deadly Night. I am producing the remake of the movie. And the licensor was licensing out Silent Night, Deadly Night, all kinds of stuff. And I was helping them with licensing deals. So somebody had said, Scott, who was the producer of that movie, said something about a game board. And I went, what's a game board, you know? And I hung up the phone everywhere, and I'm like, oh, maybe he meant board game. Like, maybe he meant board game. I don't know, I was like, what are you talking about, a game board? But there was, like, ornaments, wrapping paper, card, like, you know, you went down this list. And then I started designing. I just drew, like, a rectangle on my computer, and I started designing. And I'm a magician, so he asked a magician to help him with marketing. You know, what I do is I create experiences as a magician. Right. I will create moments of wonder. So I looked at it like that, and I just started designing a game, and I did a lot of research. I watched not every, but many how to design board games, how not to design board games. I studied board game design, and over the next couple of months, I started formulating an experience for that game that felt like the movie. So the objective of the game matched the movie. And then that was, people loved that game. We tested it, and we don't just design a game and then sell it. You test it. You have to test it and test it and test it and make sure it's fun and working properly. And we teamed up with Fright Rags, which is a very popular horror merchandiser. And they had done some Silent Night stuff, and we approached them and said, hey, we're designing this game. Would you do the artwork for it? And they said yes. And then we birthed Silent Night, Deadly Night. And that was a Kickstarter. It was very successful, and we got the license for My Bloody Valentine. And we took the same game, you know, like how Monopoly and like, you know, all these, like, you know, there's like the Barbie version and then the Simpsons version. Yeah. So we figured we could take it and call it Stop the Killer and rebrand it with different IP, horror IPs, and sort of make the game familiar. So when you're taking the game out on Valentine's Day, it's a holiday, right? You don't want to spend an hour reading the instructions for a new game. You take it out, you're like, let's play that Stop the Killer for My Bloody Valentine. And then when it's Christmas, let's play the Stop the Killer for Christmas. And so that was the thinking behind it. And the licensor is Cinepix in Canada, and George Mihalka was very involved with the illustrations and all of that, and the novel that Armando did. I mean, George Mihalka more so in that, but that's how it happened.
You know, without getting too much into the nitty gritty, because we can't bust it out on the sidewalk, unfortunately, if you could kind of take us through the mechanics of the game and what it's like to play this and experience this.
Yeah, well, it's called Stop the Killer, and you have one objective. It's to stop Harry Warden from getting to the Valentine's Day dance. And if you have, it plays 1 to 4 players. It's about 20 minutes of gameplay, give or take, which is a fast game, which means you can play 2 or 3 or 4 games back to back. Yeah. Wow. Each game has a different ending, and everybody's trying to achieve the same goal. So if the 3 of us were playing, we'd all be trying to hunt down Harry Warden by scoring a weapon, landing on a space, flicking this kill spinner. And some games, like if the 3 of us played 2 games, which I've done this many times with friends, in the first game, like you'll kill him within the first 10 minutes. The second game, he'll take us all out. You know, if we play a third game, he'll reach the Valentine's Day dance without any of us stopping him. And what the fun of it was, I designed it so that there was a different ending likely for every game. And it's just a lot of fun in it. We have a drinking game version, so every time you land on the drinking game, you go like, who ordered the moose head, and drink your beer. In Silent Night, Deadly Night, it's naughty, and you get to drink your booze or whatever. So it's just fun. That was my main criteria. Just look, can we just have some fun here with these? Oh, and they play like games from the 80s, so they look retro.
That's so cool.
And Fright Rags is really great with that kind of artwork, you know.
Definitely.
So that's how you play the game.
I wonder where you can get Moosehead in Los Angeles, though.
I have tried. I was gonna say I can't. But we sold these beer koozies that you can use any beer and it says who ordered the Moosehead
There
on
we
it.
go.
So that's how you fix that problem.
Perfect. Well, okay. Let me ask you this: and you're having these games, and you have more planned.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear about that.
Halloween 2. That's our next game.
Sick.
Well, yeah. So the good thing about Fright Rags is they have licenses that I don't have, just being a person, you know, not a merch company. And so we discussed the next game, and I was like, listen, one of the things about these horror movies, Silent Night, Deadly Night, My Bloody Valentine, Halloween 2, you name it, there's tropes in these films, right?
Yep.
There's usually a killer trying to get somewhere. You know, there's usually a sheriff. And so the Stop the Killer games are all kind of, if they have the tropes for these horror movies, these slasher films, we can build a game around it. Well, in Halloween 2, he's trying to get from the Myers house to the hospital.
Yeah.
So all of the elements are there. So we said, let's just do a Halloween 2 game. And, you know, if you don't have to have all the games, but like some people don't have My Bloody Valentine, Silent Night, Deadly Night, but they're able to pick up Halloween 2 and learn the game. And there's a double-sided board. So we have a stalk side, which is Michael stalking Haddonfield but not killing anyone. And if you turn it over, he's now in the hospital and he's doing all the famous kills. And so there's a lot of illustrations in it. We're gonna have the lighter as a weapon, because it is a weapon. Remember at the end,
Right.
we have the lighter as a weapon.
Of course it is.
We've got the scalpel and the hammer and the Elrod knife, and we've got another weapon. And so it's just we have one of the great cards in it is, you know how Mrs. Elrod is like, Harold, do you want mustard or mayo?
Yeah.
So we have a card that you pull, and it's like, ask of another player to think of mustard or mayo, and you have to just think of mustard or mayo, and then I have to guess. And if you're thinking mayo and I say mayo, then great, we get to move Michael back one space. But if you're thinking of mustard, it's like I gotta move him forward one space.
I love that.
It's just fun, retro. How can you not have fun? And if you're drinking, you know, whatever you want, Coke, because it's in the movie.
Sure.
But you can, it's just, the whole idea is to just have fun and experience the movie in a new way. That's huge. Put the movie on the background, and then all the cards. Oh my God, Yannick Bouchard is a illustrator.
Yep.
He illustrated all of the cards, so it's got all brand new illustrations. Justin Osborne did all of the illustrations on the board. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous collectible. So please pick it up.
I mean, before I even get into my next question, I'm so glad that like Halloween 2 is getting all this love now, because for a while everyone was like, it's not as good, but I've always loved Halloween 2. I just did like a mini doc about all the locations from the movie. Like, I'm absolutely gonna pick that up.
Good. I'm telling you. I mean, and you know, you have to get in on our Kickstarter, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not a salesman. I'm not trying to like be like.
It's okay, buddy. You can do it.
I'm just letting you know, people are making a mistake when they contribute to the Kickstarter. They wait, because they go, I'll just buy it later after they get it made. The problem is, yes, you can get the game, but you can't get the expansions, which add, like, you can only play 4 players on My Bloody Valentine. But the expansion pack has 6 more characters to choose from. Same thing with Silent Night, and we're going to have, I think, 14 total characters in Halloween 2. So if you want to play as Mr. Garrett, you got to get the expansion pack. There's a trivia round in there that you can only get if you're a Kickstarter backer. So that's why you just put in your money. Oh, and it's cheaper. If you buy it in the Kickstarter, you'll pay less than you would if you buy it later. Sign up for our mailing list, and you'll be notified when the Kickstarter launches.
Perfect. I'll put that in the...
Stop the killer.
Yeah, stop the killer. Stop the killer.
Stop the killer.
Now, I had heard, and we can edit this out if you're not allowed to talk about it yet, but I had heard one of the ones you wanted to tackle is Terror Train.
Yes.
Where are you going to draw on your background as a magician to work in some of the elements of Terror Train?
One of the things that's intriguing me about that game is that there's a magic angle in the movie. David Copperfield is in it, you know, and so I think I want to design a new experience so it wouldn't be the same Stop the Killer standard format of gameplay where, you know, it's the board and you're trying to stop him from getting one place. I wanted people to, this is my concept for the game, is that players build a train car. So they will either build the theater, they will build the restaurant, they will build, you know, the sleeping car or whatever. And once they successfully build it, then they need to move through it without getting killed by one of, you know, there's multiple masks in there. Yeah. But I want to create a new experience. And I'm talking to the licensor this week. We've been emailing back and forth. But it took a year to find who owned the freaking, like, who owned the rights. I was like, it's not easy. You don't just go online and go, who owns the Terror Train, right? Like, you have to dig. And so I finally got to the right person. But Terror Train, like, it fits the retro theme, and I think people really like to play that.
Let's jump back to My Bloody Valentine for a little bit, because this is such an amazing game. Was there something that you knew that you needed to capture here?
Yeah, I can't understate the fun factor. You know, when, like, you know, My Bloody Valentine, there's two ways to see it. One is back when it came out, when you saw it, and now it's like, it's cherished as like a gem in the franchise, and, you know, it is a different feeling, but I think people go to it for the fun of the movie. And so all I did was try to make a fun game. There's nothing worse when you're designing a game and nobody's having fun and there's too much to do on your turn, or it takes you 6 minutes to just do your turn and you're sitting there on your phone. Yeah. So it was just fun. It was all, the movie was there, the format was there, the Stop the Killer was there, all the imagery was there, all the cards have different scenes from the movies in there, so you're reliving the movie. I just wanted it to move and just be fun. And I get emails all the time from people saying, we have so much fun playing your game. It's not the most sophisticated game, but that's intentional. Yeah. And I just wanted George to like it as well. And so, yeah, we Zoomed with him, and I did this really nice tutorial, and I was, you know, it was like a Photoshop tutorial, and I'm moving pieces, and I was inside, I was like, please don't tell me you don't like this game. Like, you don't like this game, please. And he goes, I love it. I love its simplicity. I got it right away. I think it's fun. And I'm like, you know, and then that's all I care. Those two things I really cared about. Fun and George's approval.
What's the shortest version of this game you could possibly play?
You can kill Harry in 3 moves.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't seen anybody do it, but in Silent Night, Deadly Night, same thing, they did. And they emailed me and said, am I playing this right? And I was like, that's only happened, in my test playing happened once. Wow. So if you can kill Harry or Billy from Silent Night, Deadly Night in 3 moves, it's insane. And that's fun. But I said to the guy, play it again. And he's like, we did, and we all lost. We all got killed. So that's the strength of the game, is it's just, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, and if you're in Harry's path while he's moving, he has a very defined path around the board. Part of the strategy is to just stay out of his way. And so many people, including myself, forget that and then just realize, oh, fuck, he just killed me because he landed on my space. And it's just a lot of those fun little moments in the game. You swap spaces in some turns. It's just fun. It's fun. I have fun playing it. It's fun. So.
I mean, you know what happened? They killed Harry, and then they all got killed. It's because Axel took over. Right. Sorry, spoilers for.
Well, here's the thing. In our game, it's still Harry Warden. Yeah. Like, you know, that's the thing.
You gotta give props to Harry.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Now, we do have another game that I would like to announce, but I can't. But I wouldn't say it's a done deal, but it's very close. We're going to have a whodunit angle and multiple killers. And so it's gonna be Stop the Killer, but imagine it with not just one killer, but 2 or 3, and there's gonna be a whodunit angle. So one of the players playing will suddenly realize, holy shit, I'm the killer, and then they will now go on the offense to try to kill you and try to kill you. And so
very cool.
The game is kind of evolving.
Wow.
So,
well, yeah. And I guess my last question for you is kind of a deeper thinking, I guess. So one of the things I've noticed in the past couple years is that movie games are having a real moment. There's a big resurgence between My Bloody Valentine, and I know there's Jurassic Park one. What do you think it is about our current moment in time that is causing this nostalgia burst for horror games?
We just want to experience the movies we love in any way that we can. And I think the board games fall in the same category as t-shirts, posters, anything. Comic books. Silent Night Deadly Night just had comic books. Yeah. Armando is doing, I don't know if he told you, but he's doing Silent Night Deadly Night, the novel, next.
Oh, wow.
It's because that's the reason why. Yeah. The issue with a board game is it's not as easy as a t-shirt because you have to design all the components and make sure the experience works. But that's the reason why. It's like, give me Halloween 2 any way you can. Right. If there's a burger joint that has a Halloween 2 hamburger, people will go get it. It's just, that's what you do. You just bring it.
I'd be first in line.
Right, and that's like, it makes no sense. It's just because it's the same burger, it just says Halloween 2 on it. And I really think that's the reason. You just want another way to experience it.
That's awesome. So we're here with Armando Muñoz, who wrote the book adaptation of My Bloody Valentine, which is now out. I wanted to start by asking, in adapting this book, did you do what classic horror novelizations used to, where you expand on the story, you add new details, maybe take some detours that the movie never did?
There's plenty in this book that was not in the original film. And we did start with the original screenplay, which was missing many scenes. I stopped counting at around 24 missing or expanded scenes in the screenplay. At that point, it was just, but from day one, I was working with the director of the original, George Mihalka, and not only were we bringing the things that they weren't able to include in the original cut, but we wanted to bring his vision, make it as big as possible and expand it and strengthen the mythology and build more character. And so he's been instrumental from the get-go on giving an expanded edition of what we are familiar with. So yeah, there's plenty of new scenes in here. Scenes that were originally filmed, which never made the original cut. Not just the gore, which there is plenty of gore.
Oh yeah.
But a lot more character scenes we get this time. But there's big scares. There's big new scares. They're interchangeable with what you've seen before, so far as it's all very much a part of My Bloody Valentine's universe. So yeah, there's a lot of big surprises. I don't want to reveal much right now, but soon.
Is there anything you could tell us without spoiling too much?
An example of an expanded sequence would be the TJ and Sarah having their apology on the bluffs, which in the film is a very emotional scene, and it ends with their romantic kiss against the sunset. But that's where the film cut. The script, the sequence, turned into a fight. And she leaves them there on the bluffs. She walks back to town, and it gets dark, and she detours through the cemetery, and surprise, the miner's there to stalk her. So, so a sequence we knew goes in a totally different direction, and in a much darker direction.
Wow.
And that was just, one of those moments that wasn't, I don't know if they filmed all of that, but it definitely didn't make it into the 95-minute Paramount film. But there's so much more that we were able to build upon. For instance, in the movie, when Happy gives us the legend of Harry Warden, he describes Harry killing 2 of the supervisors who left him down there, but the film only shows us 1 murder. Well, now we get another juicy murder of what happened to the other supervisor. So many little details like that get filled in this time. But yeah, there's a lot of big scares and things that I think My Bloody Valentine fans will be very happy with.
Well, speaking of My Bloody Valentine fans, I know clearly you're a bit of a fan yourself.
Yes.
What an amazing thing to be able to take these characters and give them life again. How the hell did this happen? How did you get this opportunity?
Well, luckily, Stop the Killer Games with Anthony Masi, who's designed the board game for My Bloody Valentine and Silent Night Deadly Night, was a fan of my novels. He had my first novel, Hoarder. He knew I did the Turkey Day Thanksgiving-themed slasher series, so when it comes to holiday-themed horror, I already had some experience in this subgenre. But then we had to get George Mihalka's approval. because he was on it from the get-go as well. And so I had a good pitch meeting with him. I brought him my vision for what I was interested in doing, and it completely dovetailed with his. We were totally on the same page from the very get-go. He goes, let me tell you what this is about to me. At the very start, he said, this is a story about the Rust Belt. And I was just like, exactly, like, this is where we want to go. Like, this is small town, industry town that's dying. Like, we start with the realities of where they are and the characters. We went over every character, and we were just pretty much on the same page all the way through. And then I was able to hear what he wanted to do with it in the future so far as following it up, because he's had a long rumored follow-up to My Bloody Valentine. I think horror fans would love to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we would.
We'd be very on board.
But luckily, I was able to get that idea from the beginning and work the clues into this book of where the story will go. So we've put little threads and clues in this book where My Bloody Valentine can pick up in the future. And so if the response is good enough, and so far it seems like people are eager to see the story continue, we hope we can get George Mihalka's follow-up out there, if not as a film, as another novel.
That would be amazing.
No, you sold.
Yes, I'm down.
And I want to see where these characters go. I love every character. I mean, I have since I first saw the film in the mid-'80s. And so they were like friends to me. Now they've become family in the course of writing My Bloody Valentine. And I want to see their story continue too. So let's hope that this reopens the door for more Bloody Valentines.
Big same. Now you're kind of continuing on a tradition that has since been a little bit lost, which is novelizations of horror movies. Growing up, did you have any favorite horror novelizations?
I've been collecting novelizations since 1983. And it wasn't a horror one that was the first, it was Return of the Jedi. Novelization in 83 was the first one I picked up. But then in 85 I became the hardcore horror fan, and immediately my bookshelf had the Friday the 13th novels and the Halloween novels, and I was seeking them out since then, and I've kept most of them. A few of them have disappeared over the years. I wish I could find out what happened to my Jaws the Revenge novelization with all of its exciting voodoo subplots. But yeah, I've long been a fan, and I collect even newer ones as well. I have the new Halloween Ends on my stack. I'm ready to jump into that one.
Ooh.
And I've been reading these for decades.
Wow.
So it's great to be able to now add my signature to the form.
That is super cool.
Well, okay, let me ask you this then. You said 85 you became a hardcore horror fan. What did that? How did you find yourself on that level, on that road?
I started reading Stephen King books, novels in early 85, and Fangoria magazine. And in a way, those were to alleviate my fear of horror films. I used to be so scared of them. And it was a way for me to learn and see what made them tick and not be so scary. But that stems from seeing Friday the 13th, the original, on opening night in a theater as my first horror film. And I was way too young. I was 8. That was mind-blowing. It gave me nightmares for years. And as a result, when My Bloody Valentine's previews hit the TV, I was like, oh no, another holiday slasher from Paramount, no way. Like, I was so scared of My Bloody Valentine when it was first released that it took until 85 when I got the bravery to rent a VHS of the movie that I became a fan, but it was immediate, because we all fall in love with those characters.
Yeah.
We all love, the love triangle and those characters like Happy and Mabel and Chief Newbie and Hannah. Like, everybody is so good. Hollis and Howard and Patty and it just goes on and on. We love these characters. So
I swear to God, it's like an art house slasher film to me. It just really is.
yeah, it's very slice of life. We want it to be familiar, relatable.
Yeah.
And so we keep that thread with the book, just like the movie is what the movie had.
Wow.
And speaking of slices, do you have a favorite kill in this movie?
I love them so much. It's tough to pick a favorite one. Mabel is so tragic, but it's a really great turning point of the film. But I love Dave's death, which now that we've seen the uncut version, the hot dogs, it's just no one else has done the hot dogs. But, some of them are so disturbing. Hollis's death with those nails in the head is really upsetting, no matter how many times I see it. Sylvia's death is just so incredible. My Bloody Valentine had a lot of the best death scenes of early 80s horror slasher cinema. And that's kind of was my wheelhouse anyway, with my Turkey Day novel series. The deaths were really elevated moments of shocking carnage, and so, that's always part of the appeal as well. It's not just the characters. We want to get into the bloody good stuff and the shocks. So,
well, the irony too is that I remember the original film was so cut up, and then they finally released that DVD version. I don't remember when that was.
I think Lionsgate originally did that in 2008. They were able to incorporate some of the cut footage, and then Shout Factory recently did the much more polished edition of the uncut version with their Steelbook Blu-ray release, where it all looks perfectly integrated now, those cut scenes, but that was still only about 70%. And there was still gore that didn't make it into the that was not found, like the double murder of Harriet and oh gosh, I'm getting now all the victims mixed up.
Right. A lot of victims.
But the double murder scene, now we get to fully see. But there was even more, and in the screenplay, I even asked George on one sequence, which was completely missing from the film, and I don't think it's ever been discussed, whether they actually filmed it or not, because it was in the screenplay, a moment of such shocking carnage, and he said they absolutely filmed it, and it never made its... The ratings board wouldn't let a single frame through, and those were the scenes that they never found, like the double murder and this scene toward the end, but we were able to put it in. We don't have the MPAA to deal with.
Nice.
This is easily the bloodiest Bloody Valentine version out there. Nothing's holding us back this time. And George's idea for this also elevated it so far as the original film, we have a cave-in in 1960 with 5 miners. Now it's 20, like George originally wanted 20. So the scene of carnage in the mine is way more intense than we've seen before because there's so much. It's things like that. We get to really pump it up this time. It's so bloody.
I'm so jealous. It's so cool. I mean, you're like reliving every fan of this movie. You got to kind of relive it, and you read the original script, do all this stuff. What are you most proud of?
I'd say the atmosphere of the book, because I feel it is, it matches the film. And I think that's what everybody loves. They get that atmosphere and the flavor of the season, of the town, of the nightmare, of the legend. And Harry Warden's back. The legend of Harry Warden's back. It's we're making it as stronger than it's ever been. So
Nice.
I'm happy to be here.
Finish this up, buddy.
All right. And lastly, I wanted to ask, what were some of the biggest challenges and rewards taking this cult classic and putting it on the page?
Possibly getting to work with George Mihalka so closely from the very beginning, getting to shape this with him, and all the way to the printing. We were so involved with every step of the way. And, I was welcomed into this family, this Canadian family of filmmakers and creatives who I've admired for decades. And all of a sudden I'm working with them and bringing their story back to life. And as here at the signing today, I got to meet, the original John and Sylvia. And, that's so exciting to now be a part of their family and bring something to this and help it live on longer. And again, hopefully get a true follow-up, George Mihalka's follow-up to an audience somehow, whether that's as a film or a book. Who knows? But I think we want it. I think the fans would really want to see that.
We do. We want it really bad.
Hopefully we're on the way now.
Yes.
With this book, we can keep the Bloody Valentines coming.
Well, dude.
Well, congratulations on the book. I can't wait to pick up a copy. It sounds awesome.
Thank you.
And here's hoping for a part 2.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Once upon a time, on a sad Valentine, in a place known as Mine, a legend began. Every woman and man would always remember the time, and those who remained were never the same. You could see the fear in their eyes. Once every year, as the 14th draws near, there's a hush all over the town.